I thought my best friend was looking out for me. Turns out she was trying to destroy my marriage from the inside and I didn't even see it coming. Let me back up. I'm 29, married to a guy I've known since I was 11 years old. That's when my family moved to a new country and my sister-in-law introduced me to Sarah. She became my best friend almost immediately. We were inseparable through middle school, high school, college, and into our 20s. My husband was part of our circle too, so we all grew up together. By the time I married him at 26, Sarah was my maid of honor. I thought we were solid. Now I work in an office from 9 to 2 most days with a 30-minute break for a second breakfast. Sometimes I walk 5 minutes to my husband's office and eat with him, or I hit a cafe nearby. A couple of times a month I have to travel for work to another city. I always mention it to Sarah in casual conversation, nothing secret, just hey, I'll be out of town Wednesday. She never seemed weird about it. Last week I had a work trip planned for Wednesday. But Tuesday night a red alert came through on my phone, severe flooding expected the next day. My company canceled the trip. No problem, I thought, I'll just work from home with my 2-year-old. My husband went out at 6 Wednesday morning to make sure his business was secured and set up flood barriers. By 7:30 he was back home making breakfast. It didn't even start raining until 1 in the afternoon. We stayed in the whole day playing with our kid, watching movies, normal domestic stuff. At 3 p.m. Sarah texted me, "Are you home already? I heard the flooding is bad near where you were traveling." I replied, "Home safe, thanks." We didn't go out again until Friday. Saturday morning we had our usual gym class together. Afterward she pulled me aside looking serious. "We need to talk in private," she said. We walked to my car in the parking lot. She got in the passenger seat and I turned to face her. She said, "On Wednesday I saw your husband with a woman. They were making out, and your kid was in the car." I felt like the world stopped. My heart was pounding, but then something clicked. I remembered Wednesday. I remembered every minute of it. I was home with my husband all day. I asked her, "Are you sure it was this Wednesday?" "Yes," she said. "Absolutely sure, because I was home with him," she nodded. It was about 11 in the morning. I saw them in a car near the park. The blonde woman was gorgeous like a Barbie doll. He was all over her. I asked her 3 times. Each time she confirmed. She even gave me more details, the color of the car, the street, what my husband was wearing. It was all wrong. I knew she was lying, but I couldn't understand why. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just said, "Okay, I need to think about this." She looked disappointed, like she expected me to fall apart right there. I drove home shaking. My husband was in the kitchen making lunch. I sat him down and told him exactly what Sarah said. His face went white. "That's impossible," he said. "I was here with you. We never left the house." "I know," I said, "but she's insisting." She gave me details. We went over the timeline together. Wednesday morning, he came back at 7:30. We had breakfast. I worked on my laptop while he played with our daughter. We ate lunch together. We didn't even open the front door until Friday. There was no way. I called Sarah that evening. "I need you to tell me the truth." "I was home with my husband all day Wednesday. The flood alert kept us inside." She paused. Then she said, "Okay, I made it up." "Why?" "Because I wanted you to divorce him," she said, her voice flat. "You're always busy with him and the baby. I miss you. I thought if you were a single mom, you'd have more time to hang out with me. We could travel together again." I felt like I'd been punched. 18 years of friendship, and she tried to blow up my marriage so she could get a travel buddy. She didn't even think about my kid, my husband, my life, just her own loneliness. I didn't say much after that. I told her I needed space and hung up. Then I blocked her number, her social media, everything. That night I told my husband the whole thing. He was furious but mostly hurt for me. Over the next week I told a few of our mutual friends what happened. Some of them already had stories about Sarah being manipulative. I guess I'd been blind. A few friends reached out to check on me. Most of them stopped talking to her. She tried to apologize through a group chat, but I didn't respond. Last I heard, she's pretty isolated now. People don't trust her. And my husband and I are fine. If anything, this made us closer. I still can't believe someone I loved that much would try to sabotage everything just because she wanted more of my time. I'm still processing it, but I'm not going to let her win. My marriage is stronger than her lie ever was. I thought I had lost my best friend. Then I found out she was never really my friend at all. But that story took a toll on me. For a while I was just numb, going through the motions. My husband would hold me at night and tell me we were okay, but I couldn't shake the feeling that if someone who knew me that long could try to wreck my life, then maybe I didn't know anyone at all. That's when I started thinking about the last time I really trusted someone, and that brought me back to 2 years ago when my ex-fiancé walked out on me after nearly a decade together. Let me tell you about him. I'll call him Jacob because that's his name and I don't care anymore. We met in our early 20s. He was funny, ambitious, the kind of guy who made you feel like you were the only person in the room. By the time we hit 27, we were engaged, planning a wedding and talking about having a baby. Was 30, he was 31, time was ticking and we both wanted kids. We agreed to start trying after the wedding, then something changed. It was subtle at first. He stopped saying "I love you" before he left for work. He started coming home later smelling like beer. He'd go out with his friends 4 or 5 times a week. I'd ask if he was okay and he'd just shrug. I figured it was his mental health. He'd been struggling since the lockdowns like a lot of people, so I tried to be patient. I gave him space. I made his favorite meals. I left little notes on the bathroom mirror. Nothing. One evening in early March, I sat him down at the kitchen table. We just finished dinner, spaghetti and meatballs, his favorite. I said, Jacob, is everything okay with you? He said he was fine. I said, is everything okay with us? He looked at me and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. He didn't want to answer. I asked again. He paused for what felt like forever. Then he said, I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there staring at the sauce on his plate. He got up, walked to the bedroom, and started packing a bag. Within a week, he had moved out. He left 90% of his stuff behind: clothes, books, the coffee mug I bought him for our 5th anniversary. Every day I came home and saw his things, and it was like he was still there, but he was gone. I spiraled hard, I mean really hard. I stopped eating. I stopped leaving the house. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the last few months, trying to find the moment when I became someone he didn't want anymore. I thought there was something wrong with me. Something so broken that even after 10 years, he couldn't bear to stay. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I took every pill I had in the apartment. I just wanted the pain to stop. I didn't even leave a note. A friend of mine, Rachel, had been checking in on me every day. When I didn't answer her calls that night, she drove over, used the spare key, and found me on the bathroom floor. She got me to the hospital in time. I spent 3 days in the psych ward. Jacob didn't visit. He didn't call. I guess he was too busy not being in love with me. After I got out, I moved in with my parents. I started therapy. It took months, but I slowly put myself back together. I got a new job, made new friends, started going to the gym. I even deleted his number and blocked him on everything. I told myself I was done. Then last month, I got a message on Facebook from an old friend of his. She said she had something important to tell me. I almost ignored it, but something made me open it. She said Jacob had been talking to her husband at a barbecue a few weeks ago. He'd had too much to drink and he started crying. He told her husband the real reason he left me. I didn't want to read the rest, but I did. Turns out Jacob had been secretly dating a coworker for 6 months before he broke up with me. He'd been planning to leave me for her. But she was married too, and she wasn't willing to leave her husband. So he ended things with me anyway, thinking she'd come running. She didn't. She told him she never loved him, that it was just an affair. He was alone, heartbroken, and too proud to crawl back to me. That was the whole reason, not my fault, not some flaw in me. He left because he fell for someone else, and when that fell apart, he didn't have the courage to admit it. He let me believe I was unlovable, let me try to kill myself while he was just sitting in his misery that his side piece dumped him. I cried when I read it, not for him, for the version of me that spent 2 years blaming herself. I cried for the wedding dress I returned, for the baby names I whispered to myself at night, for all the nights I cried alone while he was out with his friends, maybe even with her. I didn't reach out to him. What would I say? Thanks for ruining my life? No. I just took a screenshot of the message and sent it to my therapist. She said, now you can finally stop asking yourself what you did wrong. It was never you. She was right. I'm still not fully healed, but I'm dating someone new now, a guy I met at a book club. He's patient, he listens, and he tells me he loves me every single day. And I believe him because I finally know what real love looks like. It doesn't leave in the middle of the night. It doesn't let you drown. And Jacob, he can go fuck himself. That story taught me something important. Sometimes the people closest to you will tear you apart, and you'll spend years trying to understand why. But the answer is usually simpler than you think. They're selfish, they're broken, they're just not good people. It's not your job to fix them. A few months after I got that message, I started thinking about my first love, the one before Jacob, the one I thought would be my forever. I was 17 when we started dating. He was 16, his name was Nate, and he absolutely destroyed me. Let me tell you about Nate. I was 17 when we started dating. 16, just a year younger, but he had this confidence that made him seem older. We met at a friend's house party. Somebody's older sibling was away and they threw a rager. I remember he walked up to me and said, "You look like you're about to leave." And I wasn't comfortable at parties back then. I told him, yeah, I'm not really a crowd person. He smiled and said, me neither, wanna go get pancakes? That was it, I was hooked. For 9 years, Nate was my entire world. Everything I did for him. When he fell into depression during his senior year of high school, I stayed on the phone with him until 3 in the morning, night after night. When his parents disowned him because he wanted to major in music, they said it was a waste of money and talent. I helped him get his grades up so he could keep his scholarship. I worked 2 jobs while I was in college myself. I was a waitress at a diner 6 days a week and I did retail on Sundays. I gave him my tips so he could buy textbooks. I didn't think twice about it. I loved him. His parents eventually came around about 3 years in. They started talking to him again and helping him financially. We moved into a new apartment together near campus. It was a 1-bedroom, but it had a balcony and a little view of the river, and I thought we were finally living our dream. Nate told me he wanted me to quit my job. He said, "It's my turn to take care of you now." I didn't quit because I'd learned the hard way never to depend on someone else for money. But I cut back to 1 job and he picked up the rest of the rent. For about 16 months, things were amazing. He'd surprise me with flowers, cook me dinner, take me on weekend trips to the beach. I thought we were building something real. Then I started noticing the shift. He made new friends at his internship, a group of guys who partied hard and seemed to have no plans beyond the weekend. He'd come home late smelling like cheap beer and cigarette smoke. He started ignoring my texts. I'd be sitting on the couch waiting for him and he'd walk in, barely look at me and go straight to bed. I'd ask if something was wrong and he'd say, I'm just tired. I started to feel like a ghost in my own home. December came and he did a complete 180. He love-bombed me hard. He bought me a cashmere sweater I'd been eyeing for months. He took me to a fancy Italian restaurant downtown. He made me my favorite dinner, lasagna with homemade sauce on Christmas Eve. He gave me a necklace with a tiny star pendant and said, "You're my whole universe." I really thought he was going to propose on January 2nd. It was our anniversary, kind of 9 years since that first pancake date. He cooked a 3-course meal, shrimp cocktail, filet mignon with truffle mashed potatoes and chocolate lava cake. He made a toast. He talked about how I'd been his first love, how I'd been there for him since high school. I kept thinking any minute now he's gonna get down on one knee, but he didn't. He kept talking and his voice got quieter. He said, "You were a good girlfriend, but that's what you always be to me, a girlfriend. I don't see you as my wife or the mother of my children." I remember the fork slipped out of my hand and clattered onto the plate. I asked him what he meant. He said, "I just think we want different things. You deserve someone who can give you the life you want." I sat there frozen. He stood up and started clearing the dishes. He told me he'd already packed some of his stuff. He said he'd move out by the end of the week. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just went to the bedroom and lay on the bed staring at the ceiling while I heard him running the dishwasher in the kitchen. It was surreal. He left 3 days later. Took his clothes, his guitar, and that stupid coffee mug I bought him for our second anniversary. He left the necklace on the nightstand. I fell apart. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying that dinner, trying to find the moment when I became someone who wasn't enough. I reached out to a few mutual friends, but they all said they didn't know anything. I spent a month in bed. I had to quit my job because I couldn't function. My mom drove 4 hours to pick me up and take me home. I moved back in with my parents at 26 years old. It took me a year to start feeling like a person again. I went to therapy. I got a new job in a different city. I started dating a little, but I never let anyone get too close. I told myself I'd never let a man break me like that again. Then in April, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It said, "Hey, it's Nate. I know I shouldn't be texting you, but I need to get something off my chest. Can we talk, please?" I stared at it for 10 minutes. Part of me wanted to delete it, but another part, the part that still had questions, wanted answers. I replied, "Fine, 1 coffee, public place." We met at a Starbucks near my old apartment. He looked different, thinner, tired. He had dark circles under his eyes. He ordered a black coffee. I got a chai latte. We sat in the corner. He kept fidgeting with his cup. Finally, he said, "I owe you an explanation." I told him he didn't owe me anything, but he said, "I know. But I need you to know the truth." He took a deep breath and said, "I didn't leave you because you weren't wife material. I left you because I was in love with someone else." I felt my chest tighten, but I didn't interrupt. He said, "Her name is Emily. She worked at the same internship." We started talking and I got in over my head. I thought I loved her. I thought she would leave her boyfriend for me. I ended things with you because I wanted to be with her. But she didn't leave him. She told me she never felt the same way. She called me pathetic, and I was. He looked at me, his eyes wet. "I'm sorry, I was a coward. I took the coward's way out. You deserved better." I asked him why he was telling me this now. He said, "Because I can't stop thinking about you. I want to try again. I'll do anything, please." I sat there, stirring my chai. I thought about the nights I cried myself to sleep. I thought about the way I blamed myself for months. I thought about the necklace sitting in a drawer at my mom's house. And I looked at him, his desperate, tear-streaked face, and I felt nothing. Not anger, not pity, just nothing. I said, "Nate, you threw away 9 years because you thought you found something better. You didn't tell me the truth then. You only told me now because it didn't work out with her. You don't want me. You want someone to save you from your loneliness, and I'm not that person anymore." He tried to argue. He said he'd changed, that he was in therapy, that he realized what he lost. I stood up, threw my cup in the trash, and said, "I hope you find peace, but it's not with me." I walked out. I found out later through a friend of a friend that his little confession had consequences. Emily, the woman he left me for, had a boyfriend who was not happy. She told Nate to stay away from her, and when he kept texting her, she filed a restraining order. He got fired from his internship because of the drama. His parents were furious. Last I heard, he was living with his cousin, working at a grocery store. I should have felt satisfied, and I did a little, but mostly I felt relieved. Relieved that I didn't end up married to a man who would throw me away the second his crush batted her eyelashes. Relieved that I walked away with my dignity intact, even if it took me 2 years to find it. I'm not angry at him anymore. I'm just glad I'm not the girl who would have said yes to a proposal on January 2nd, because she would have been marrying a lie. And Nate, he can stay in his grocery store aisle stocking shelves, thinking about what he lost. I've got a life to live. I never thought my best friend would try to destroy my marriage, but that's exactly what happened, and I still don't fully understand why. Let me back up. I moved to the US with my family when I was 11. I didn't speak English well, I didn't know anyone, and I was terrified. My sister-in-law, who was just my brother's girlfriend at the time, introduced me to Sarah. She was the same age as me, lived 3 blocks away, and she didn't treat me like a weird foreign kid. We became inseparable. We went to middle school together, high school, we even went to the same community college for a while. She was at my wedding. She was the first person I called when I found out I was pregnant. I trusted her completely. Now I'm 29, married to a man I met when I was 11 too. He was my brother's best friend. We have a 2-year-old son. Life was good. My job is flexible. I work in an office from 9 to 2 and I take my lunch break at a cafe, or sometimes I walk 5 minutes to my husband's office to eat with him. I travel for work occasionally, maybe once a month. I always tell Sarah when I have a trip coming up, just in casual conversation. She always seemed interested, asking about the hotels, the restaurants. I thought she was just being a good friend. Last Tuesday night, there was a red alert about flooding. The next day was supposed to be my work trip to a city about 2 hours away, but they canceled it because of the weather. So on Wednesday, I stayed home with my son. My husband went out at 6 in the morning to check on his business and put up flood barriers. By 7:30, he was back making breakfast. It didn't even start raining until 1 in the afternoon. We spent the whole day together, baking cookies, watching cartoons, napping on the couch. We didn't leave the house until Friday. On Saturday, I went to our usual gym class. Sarah was there. She seemed off the whole time, not really talking, avoiding eye contact. After class, she grabbed my arm and said, "We need to talk in private." We went out to my car. She looked nervous, fidgeting with her gym bag strap. Then she said, "I saw your husband on Wednesday. He was with a woman, they were making out, and your kid was in the car." I froze, my heart started pounding, but then my brain caught up. I remembered that Wednesday. I remembered my husband in his old sweats, flour on his shirt, helping our son smear cookie dough everywhere. I remembered the three of us eating lunch together at the kitchen table. I remembered that we didn't leave the house. Asked her, "Are you sure it was this Wednesday?" "Yes," she said, nodding fast. "What time?" "Around 11. During the red alert?" "Yes." I asked her if she was absolutely sure 3 times. She confirmed 3 times. She even started describing the woman, a blonde, tall, gorgeous like a Barbie, she said. She said they were in a car near the park and my son was in the back seat. She said she was so shocked she almost crashed her own car. I looked at her and said, "Sarah, I was home all day Wednesday. My husband was with me. We never left the house." She went pale. Her mouth opened and closed. She said, "No, no, I saw them. I'm not lying." "You are lying," I said. "I have proof." I took pictures of our cookies. I have text messages with my mom from that morning. My husband's car never left the driveway. The city was on lockdown because of flooding. She started crying. She said, I'm sorry, I don't know what I was thinking." I asked her why she would do this. She said between sobs that she missed me. She said ever since I had the baby, I didn't have time for her. She said she thought if I were a single mom, I'd have more free time to hang out with her. She said it out loud. She thought that if she could break up my marriage, I would go back to being her 20-year-old party friend. I didn't scream, I just said, "Drive home safe," and got out of the car. I walked to my husband's office and told him everything. He was furious, but he was also confused. We both were. We'd known Sarah for 18 years. We'd been to her family's Thanksgiving. She was the godmother of our son. That night I called her and said I needed space. She kept texting, apologizing, saying she'd been jealous of my marriage, that she never meant to hurt me. I didn't respond. A week later, I found out she told some of our mutual friends that I was being dramatic, that she was just looking out for me, that I misheard her. A couple of them believed her. One of them told me I was too hard on her and that everyone makes mistakes. I blocked that friend. I haven't spoken to Sarah in 6 months. I heard through the grapevine that she started therapy. Good for her, but I don't think I can ever trust her again. She was willing to destroy my family so she could have a drinking buddy. That's not a friend, that's a parasite. I still don't know why she did it. Jealousy, loneliness, maybe both. But I know one thing, I'll never let someone get that close again without a hard boundary. My marriage survived because I paid attention to what happened on a rainy Wednesday. And Sarah can spend the rest of her life wondering what could have been if she'd just been happy for me. That was the first time I realized how deep jealousy can run, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. Some betrayals don't come from friends, they come from the person who promised to love you forever. I was with my ex for almost 10 years, 10 years. We met in our early 20s, and from the start I thought we were the kind of couple that would make it. We had the inside jokes, the shared playlist, the plan for a house with a big backyard. We were engaged for about a year, actively planning the wedding, and we had just agreed to start trying for a baby. I was 31, he was 32. Time was ticking and we both knew it. Then something shifted. It was subtle at first. He stopped saying "I love you" before he left for work. He started coming home late, saying he was grabbing drinks with friends. I told myself it was stress. He'd been struggling with his mental health since the lockdowns. I tried to be supportive. I made his favorite meals, I gave him space, I didn't nag, but the distance grew. One night he came home smelling like cheap perfume and didn't even look at me. I sat him down at the kitchen table and asked, "Is everything okay with you?" He shrugged. I asked, "Are we okay?" He paused. That pause told me everything. He finally said, "I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore." Within a week, he was gone. He left 90% of his belongings behind: his clothes, his guitar, his stupid collection of sneakers. Every time I walked into the living room, I saw his jacket hanging on the chair, a constant reminder that he just walked out. I spiraled. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I blamed myself. I thought, what's wrong with me? Why wasn't I enough? I tried to end it. I won't go into details, but a friend found me and got me to a hospital. After that, I started therapy. Slowly, painfully, I began to piece my life back together. I moved to a smaller apartment. I threw out his things. I started going to the gym. I stopped crying every night. It took 2 years, but I was finally okay. Then out of nowhere he reached out, a text, I need to talk, it's important, I have to get something off my chest. I almost deleted it. But curiosity or maybe leftover hope got the better of me. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop. I walked in and he looked terrible. Gaunt, bags under his eyes, shaking a little. He started talking and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He said he left because he found out I had fertility issues. He said he overheard me talking to my doctor on the phone about my low egg count. He said he panicked. He wanted kids more than anything and he didn't think he could handle being with someone who might not be able to give him that, so he pulled away. He made himself fall out of love because he was too much of a coward to tell me the truth. He said he regretted it every single day. He said he'd been in therapy and he realized how messed up it was. He said he still loved me. I just stared at him, all that pain, all those nights I cried myself to sleep thinking I wasn't good enough. And it was because of something I had no control over, something he never even gave me a chance to explain. I asked him, did you ever think to talk to me about it? Did you ever think we could figure it out together, IVF, adoption, anything? He looked down and whispered, I was scared. I stood up. I said, you didn't even give me a choice. You took away my chance to decide what I wanted. You just assumed I was broken and left. I told him I was seeing someone new, a man who loved me for me, not for my uterus. And then I left him sitting there with his cold coffee and his guilt. I later found out he never even had kids. He was single, stuck in the same dead-end job, still renting a room in his friend's basement. I guess when you throw away a decade over fear, you don't exactly end up with a fairy tale. I'm not angry anymore, but I'm not forgiving either. He made his choice. And I made mine to live without that weight. Some stories don't end with a clean breakup. Some end with a confession that only makes the scar deeper. My ex Nate taught me that lesson in a way I'll never forget. We were together for 9 years. I met him in high school when I was 17 and he was 16. He was this quiet, broody guy who wrote poetry. I thought he was deep. I thought he was my soulmate. I put everything into that relationship. I helped him through his depression. I worked 2 jobs so he could focus on college after his parents disowned him for picking the wrong major. I was a college student myself, but I made it work. When his parents finally came back into his life and started paying for his expenses, we moved into a nicer apartment. He told me he wanted to take care of me. He said it was his turn. For 16 months, it was perfect. He spoiled me, took me on trips, cooked me dinner. I thought we were building a future. Then he changed. He started spending more time with new friends from work, ignoring my texts, coming home late. I told myself it was just a phase. In December, he did a complete 180. He love-bombed me. He made Christmas magical, a tree, presents, a handwritten card. On January 2nd, he made my favorite dinner, lasagna, garlic bread, a bottle of wine. He gave a speech about how I was his first love, how I'd been there since high school. I thought he was going to propose. Instead, he dumped me. He said, you were a good girlfriend, but that's all you'll ever be to me, a girlfriend. I don't see you as my wife or the mother of my children. He said it like it was a compliment. I cried, I begged, I asked what I did wrong. He just said, it's not you, it's me. Classic. He moved out. I was devastated. I lost 9 years. 9 years of my life just gone. I had to rebuild everything, my savings, my social life, my self-esteem. I started therapy, I got a better job, I adopted a dog. Slowly, I started to feel like myself again. I dated a few guys, but I kept my walls up. Then about a month ago, he texted me. I need to talk, I have to get something off my chest. I thought about ignoring it, but I'd had enough therapy to be curious. I met him at a diner. He looked nervous, fidgeting with his napkin. He told me he left me because he had a crush on a coworker named Emily. He said he thought she was perfect, that he was madly in love with her, that he ended a 9-year relationship to be with her. And the punchline, she rejected him. She told him he was a piece of trash and that she'd never be interested. He said he made a huge mistake, that he missed me, that he wanted me back. I just sat there 9 years. He threw away 9 years for a crush. He didn't even tell me the truth back then. He made me think I wasn't wife material. I spent months blaming myself, wondering what was wrong with me. And it was all because he thought Emily was prettier and she didn't even like him. I didn't scream. I just said, you had your chance 9 years ago. You made your choice, now live with it. I got up and walked out. He kept texting me for days saying he'd changed, that he was in therapy. I blocked him. A friend told me later that Emily filed a restraining order against him. He got fired from his internship because of the drama. His parents were furious. He's living with his cousin now, working at a grocery store. I should feel satisfied, but mostly I just feel relieved. Relieved that I dodged a bullet. Relieved that I'm not the girl who would have said yes on January 2nd. I'm okay now. I'm dating someone who actually sees me. And Nate. He can stock shelves for the rest of his life, thinking about what he lost. I'm not his safety net. I'm not anyone's backup plan. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones holding the knife. I met Sarah when I was 11 years old. My family had just moved to a new country and I didn't know anyone. I was the awkward immigrant kid with the wrong accent and the wrong clothes. My future sister-in-law introduced us, and from that day on, Sarah and I were inseparable. We grew up together, sleepovers, school projects, first crushes, heartbreaks. She was there for everything. When I met my husband at 16, she was the first person I told. When he proposed 8 years later, she helped me plan the engagement party. She was my best friend. I trusted her with my life. Now I'm 29, married for 3 years, and we have a 2-year-old son. Life is good. I work in an office from 9 to 2. Sometimes I have to travel to another city for meetings. My husband runs his own business about 5 minutes from my office. We have a rhythm. On my lunch break, I usually walk over to his place and we grab a bite together, or I hit a cafe nearby. Sarah and I still see each other every Saturday at gym class. We text several times a week. She knows my schedule. I'd mentioned a work trip that was supposed to happen on a Wednesday a couple weeks ago. Tuesday night, a red alert came through, flood warnings. The city was shutting down. My work trip was canceled. I stayed home with my son on Wednesday. My husband went out at 6 in the morning to close up his business and put up flood barriers, but by 7:30 he was back home making pancakes. It didn't even start raining until 1 in the afternoon. We spent the whole day together, movies, nap time, playing with blocks. We didn't leave the house until Friday. Saturday morning, I walked into gym class feeling good. Sarah was already there, stretching. She seemed off, quiet. Avoiding eye contact, after class she grabbed my arm and said we needed to talk in private. We went out to my car. She looked nervous, like she was about to drop a bomb. Then she said, "On Wednesday I saw your husband with a woman. They were making out and your kid was in the car." My blood froze. For a split second my heart stopped, but then my brain caught up. Wednesday I was home with my husband all day. I asked her, "Are you sure it was this Wednesday?" She nodded. "Yes, I'm sure." I asked again, "The one with the red alert?" She said yes. I asked a third time, "Are you absolutely certain?" And she launched into this detailed description of my husband kissing some gorgeous blonde Barbie lookalike in a parking lot with our son in the back seat. She even gave me the time, 11 in the morning. I just stared at her. At that exact time, my husband was in our kitchen, wearing his pajama pants, making me a second cup of coffee. I remembered it clearly because our toddler had spilled oatmeal all over the floor and I was cleaning it up while my husband laughed and said, "At least it wasn't the couch." I didn't confront her right there. I said, "Okay, thanks for telling me. I'll talk to him." She looked almost disappointed, like she wanted me to cry or scream. I drove home shaking, not from anger at my husband. I knew he was innocent, but from the realization that Sarah had just tried to destroy my marriage. For what? I didn't understand. When I got home, I told my husband everything. His face went pale, then red. He wanted to drive to her apartment and demand answers. I told him to wait. I needed to think. We spent the weekend going over every interaction we'd had with Sarah in the past year. Had she acted weird? Had she shown any jealousy? I couldn't think of anything. She'd always been supportive. But now I started remembering little things, how she'd always ask about our sex life, how she'd comment on my husband's looks, how she'd joke about stealing him. I'd laughed it off as harmless flirting. Monday came. I texted Sarah and said I needed to talk again. She agreed to meet at a coffee shop after work. My husband wanted to come, but I said no. I needed to hear her out alone. She walked in smiling. She sat down and said, "So did you confront him?" I said, "Sarah, I was home on Wednesday. I never traveled. The trip was canceled because of the flood." My husband was with me the entire day. Her smile dropped. She stammered, "No, you told me you were going on that trip." I said, "The weather canceled it. I told you I was home safe when you texted me at 3. She blinked. "Oh, I thought you meant from the airport." I said, "Sarah, I texted you from my living room. My husband was making lunch." She went quiet, then she tried to backtrack. "Maybe I got the day wrong. Maybe it was another Wednesday." I said, "No, you specifically said this Wednesday, 11 in the morning during the red alert. You described a parking lot I've never seen and a woman I've never met. You described my son in the back seat. You were very detailed." She started crying. "I'm so sorry. I thought I saw them. I was mistaken." I said, "You weren't mistaken. You lied. You tried to break up my marriage. Why?" She didn't answer. She just sat there crying. I got up and left. I haven't spoken to her since. Later, a mutual friend told me that Sarah had developed a crush on my husband years ago. She thought if she could make me believe he was cheating, I'd leave him and she'd have a chance. She'd been waiting for an opportunity. My work trip was supposed to be that opportunity. She didn't know it was canceled. I felt sick. 18 years of friendship, and she was willing to destroy my family over a fantasy. I told my husband everything. He was furious. He wanted to expose her to everyone we knew. I said no. I just wanted to cut her out and move on, but word got around anyway. Sarah lost most of our mutual friends. A few believed her side, that she was just trying to help, and I overreacted. But most people saw the truth. She sent me a long apology text a week later saying she was jealous of my life, that she didn't mean to hurt me, that she needed therapy. I didn't reply. I don't think I ever will. Some friendships aren't built on trust. They're built on convenience, on history, on the illusion of loyalty. Sarah taught me that the person who knows your schedule, your fears, your dreams, the person who's been there since you were 11, can also be the one waiting to stab you in the back. I still don't know why she did it. Maybe she was lonely, maybe she wanted what I had, maybe she thought she deserved it more, but that's not my problem anymore. My husband and I are fine. Better, actually. We talk more. We appreciate what we have, and I'm more careful about who I let into our life. Trust is earned, not given because of time. And Sarah spent 18 years earning mine, then burned it in 5 minutes. Sometimes love isn't a lie. Sometimes it's just a slow, quiet, vanishing act. I was with my ex-fiancé for almost 10 years. We started dating in our early 20s, and by the time we hit our 30s, we were planning the wedding, talking about babies, picking out names. He'd struggled with his mental health after the COVID lockdowns, but I thought we were getting through it. I thought we were solid. Then one day he stopped saying, I love you before work. Then he started coming home late, going out with friends more, drinking more. I'd ask him what was wrong and he'd say nothing. I'd ask if we were okay and he'd look at the floor. I asked him outright one night, sitting on the couch with takeout that had gone cold, do you still love me? He said, I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore. That was it. Within a week, he moved out, left 90% of his belongings in our apartment like a tombstone. I spiraled hard. I tried to end my life. A friend found me in time and got me to the hospital, and after that I started therapy, slowly, painfully rebuilding myself. It took months before I could sleep through the night. It took over a year before I could look at our wedding Pinterest board without crying. I eventually moved on, started dating again cautiously, met a good guy who treated me like I mattered. I thought the chapter was closed. Then 2 years after he left, I got a message from my ex's sister. She said, you need to know something. He's been lying to you the whole time. The real reason he left is because he found out he was infertile. He couldn't give you the baby you wanted, so he convinced himself you'd leave him eventually anyway, and he decided to leave first. He told everyone you were the one who couldn't have kids. He made you the villain so he didn't have to feel guilty. I read that message 5 times. I felt the floor drop out from under me. All that pain, all that shame, all those nights I blamed myself. It was all because he couldn't face his own goddamn fear. He didn't even give me a choice. He didn't say, hey, I found out I might not be able to have kids, let's figure this out together. He just assumed I'd leave, so he left first, and then he let me believe it was my fault. He let me try to kill myself over a lie. I called his sister, she told me everything. He'd found out about his infertility about a month before he started acting distant. He'd been going to appointments, getting tests, and he just crumbled. He never told me. He never even considered telling me. He just decided that I deserved someone who could give me a family, and he walked away. But here's the thing, I never wanted a baby more than I wanted him. If he'd told me, I would have said, okay, let's look at adoption, let's look at IVF, let's look at fostering, let's look at child-free, whatever you want, I just want you. He never gave me that chance. He took away my agency. He took away my dignity. And he made me spend 2 years thinking I was broken. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there, phone in hand, and felt a cold, hard clarity settle in. I texted his sister back, thank you for telling me, I deserve to know. Then I blocked my ex's number for good. He'd tried to send a few messages over the years, vague apologies, but I never responded. Now I knew why. He couldn't even tell me the truth in a breakup message. He was a coward then, and he was a coward now. A few weeks later, I ran into a mutual friend who told me my ex was seeing someone new. The friend said, he seems really happy, he's talking about adopting. I just smiled, good for him, he found his courage somewhere, but he didn't find it with me and he never will. I'm engaged now to the good guy. We've talked about kids, adoption, fostering, all of it. He knows my history, he knows I'm not broken, and I know that the person I thought I was going to marry wasn't real. He was a projection. The real him was too scared to fight for us, so I fought for myself instead. Sometimes the people who leave you without a reason are actually running from their own reflection. And sometimes, years later, you find out the truth and it doesn't heal you, but it sets you free. I met Nate when I was 17. He was 18, a year ahead in high school, awkward and intense. I was the girl who always had his back. For 9 years, that was my whole identity. I helped him through depression when his parents disowned him for choosing the wrong college major. I worked 2 jobs while I was in college myself so he could focus on his classes. I gave him everything, my time, my money, my future. When his parents eventually came around and started paying for his life, we moved into a new apartment and he said, it's my turn to take care of you. For 16 months, it was great. He spoiled me. I thought we were finally on the same page. Then he started pulling away, getting distant, ignoring me for his new friends. I tried to talk to him, but he'd brush me off. In December, he did a complete 180. Love bombed me, made Christmas magical, took me to fancy dinners, gave me a necklace with my birthstone. I honestly thought he was going to propose on January 2nd. He made my favorite dinner, spaghetti carbonara, and gave a speech about how I'd been his first love, how I'd been there since high school, how he couldn't imagine his life without me. I was practically vibrating, waiting for the ring box to come out. Instead, he said, you were a good girlfriend, but that's all you'll ever be to me. A girlfriend. I don't see you as my wife or the mother of my children, I'm sorry. I sat there, fork halfway to my mouth. He just stared at me, no ring, no apology, just a breakup speech dressed up as a toast. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I just said, okay, and I left. I packed my stuff that night, I moved in with my mom. I spent the next 3 months crying in the shower, wondering what was wrong with me. I'd given him 9 years, 9 years of my 20s. And he threw me away like a pair of old shoes. I blocked him on everything. I started therapy. I slowly rebuilt my life, got a promotion at work, started going to the gym, made new friends. I even started dating again, casually, nothing serious. I figured I'd never trust anyone that much again. Then 7 months after he dumped me, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was Nate. He said, I need to talk to you. I need to get something off my chest, please. It's important. I almost deleted it, but curiosity got the better of me. I met him at a Starbucks near my office, feeling nervous and angry all at once. He looked thinner, tired. He sat down and started talking. He told me that after we broke up, he'd immediately started pursuing a woman from his workplace. A woman he'd had a crush on for months while we were together. He told her he was free now, that he'd left me for her, and she laughed in his face. She said she'd never even thought of him that way. She said he was pathetic for ending a 9-year relationship for a fantasy. She told him to leave her alone. He was devastated, humiliated, and now he wanted me back. He said he realized he'd made a mistake, that I was the only one who ever loved him, that he was sorry. I just looked at him. I said, you broke up with me on January 2nd after 9 years because you wanted to chase a woman who didn't even know your name. And now that she rejected you, you think you can come crawling back? I'm not a backup plan. I'm not your safety net. He started crying, begging, said he'd changed, said he'd go to therapy. I stood up, grabbed my bag and said, Nate, I hope you figure your life out, but it won't be with me. Goodbye. I walked out. I felt lighter than I had in months. I got in my car and called my best friend and told her everything. She said, good for you. He doesn't deserve a second of your time. And she was right. I'm dating someone now who actually values me. He brings me coffee in the morning without being asked. He remembers the little things, and he's never once made me feel like I'm competing with a ghost. Nate, meanwhile, still works at the same store stocking shelves. I heard through the grapevine that he tried to date a few other women, but none of them stuck. He's alone, and I'm okay with that. I thought I knew my best friend. Sarah and I had been inseparable since I was 11 years old, when my family moved to a new country and my sister-in-law introduced us. We grew up together, shared everything from secrets to clothes to late-night talks about our futures. When I met my husband at age 11 too, we all kind of grew up as a trio. I thought we were set for life. But last week, Sarah tried to blow up my marriage with a lie so stupid it would have worked if I hadn't, by pure luck, stayed home that day. Let me back up. I work in an office from 9 to 2 with a 30-minute break for second breakfast. Sometimes I walk to my husband's office, which is 5 minutes away, or hit a cafe near my job. I travel for work now and then to another city for meetings. Sarah knew about my travel plans because I mentioned it casually, like, hey, I'll be out of town Wednesday, can't do lunch, normal friend stuff. That Tuesday night, a red alert popped up for the next day, severe flooding. My work trip was canceled. So Wednesday morning, I stayed home with our 2-year-old. My husband left at 6 a.m. to close up his business and put up flood protection, but by 7:30 he was back making us all breakfast. It didn't even rain until 1 p.m. We spent the whole day inside watching movies, playing with the kid, just being a family. Around 3 p.m. Sarah texted, are you home already? It's flooding where you were traveling. I texted back, home safe. Didn't think anything of it. We didn't leave the house until Friday. Saturday morning, same gym class. Sarah pulls me aside after, says we need to talk in private. We go to my car in the parking lot. She looks serious, almost tearful. She says, on Wednesday, I saw your husband with a woman. They were making out, and your kid was in the car. My blood went cold. For 1 second, my brain tried to process it. Then I remembered Wednesday I was home, my husband was home, my kid was home, we were all together the entire day because of the red alert. She was lying. But why? I asked her 3 times, are you sure it was this Wednesday? She said yes 3 times. I asked the time. She said around 11 a.m. I asked if it was during the red alert. She said yes. Then she launched into this detailed description of my husband making out with some gorgeous blonde Barbie lookalike in a car with my child in the back seat. She described the street, the parking lot, the whole scene like a movie. I just stared at her. I said, Sarah, I was working from home Wednesday. The trip was canceled because of the weather. My husband was with me the whole time. We didn't leave the house until Friday. Her face went white. She stammered, but I saw I must have mistaken the day. Maybe it was another Wednesday. I said, you were very specific about it being this Wednesday. You described the red alert. You said my kid was in the car. I was there, Sarah. You were lying. She started crying, sobbing, begging me to understand. She said she was just trying to protect me. Then she switched to saying she was jealous of my marriage, that she wanted me to have more free time to hang out with her like we used to before I had a kid. She said she thought if I thought my husband was cheating, I'd leave him, become a single mom, and then she'd have her friend back. She actually admitted it. I felt sick. This woman I'd known since I was 11, who I introduced to my husband, who watched my kid on weekends, she tried to destroy my family because she was lonely. She thought I'd be happier as a single mother with more time for girls' nights. I didn't scream. I said, I need space, don't contact me. I drove home and told my husband everything. He was stunned. He said, I don't understand. She was at our wedding. She held our baby. I blocked her number. I told our mutual friends the truth. Some of them took her side, said I was overreacting, that she was just hurt and confused. I cut them off too. It's been 2 weeks. Sarah has called me 17 times from different numbers. She left a voicemail yesterday crying, saying she's in therapy, she's sorry. I deleted it. I don't forgive her. I don't forget. Some people will burn everything down around you just to feel warm for a minute. And sometimes your oldest friend is a stranger wearing a familiar face. I'm done.